All righty. We are back with another Saturday morning family, education, support, transformation, recovery, healing, whatever you want to call it here with myself, Param, and whoever you are, wherever you are, however you may be listening. I just want to welcome you to this live stream. It is something that we've been doing for quite some time now, maybe 4 years. And if you go on our YouTube page, Buckeye Recovery Network, and go click under the live ones, you'll see a database, archive, 4 years of me looking in various different ways, from shaved face to bald head to long hair to everything in between. To people who popped up already, the Betas and the gyms, good morning. Excited for this one. I think it's going to be a little bit of a different it's a new talk, and it's inspired from the changing of the seasons that we just recently had. So quick introduction about myself while we wait for some people to come in. My name is Param. Like I said, we do this pretty much each and every single Saturday from 9:15 Pacific Standard Time to 10. If you happen to miss it, it will be in our Facebook and YouTube page. Like I said, go under the live archives and you'll see them all there. And it is interactive, so people can write comments while I speak. You can ask questions. So a couple things about myself. I got a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I'm licensed as an addictions counselor. I've been in the recovery and transformation space, the field, since June 13th of 2008. And I teach classes at Saddleback Community College, coach high school basketball, and a little bit of everything else. So, yep. What's up, Terry? Welcome back. Happy to have you back again. And let's get into it. So today, this week that just passed right now was the spring equinox. Okay, so the first day of spring. And by the way, I know some Iranians and some Persian people tend to watch this. Happy New Year's, Happy Nowruz. It is also the first day of spring, correlates with the Persian New Year's. So not really going to talk about that. But what I want to talk about is how can we learn from this thing called nature and apply the lessons we learned from this thing called nature to our healing, recovery, and transformation. So, and I'm not trying to be like a hippie over here talking about, we are one with nature, but look at this. I mean, we are pretty much connected to this whole greater scheme of things. I mean, if we don't drink water for a period of time, we can die, correct? I hope you guys all know that. It's not really the food part, it's the water part that's really dangerous. And what else does not survive with ample water? Man, flowers, trees, plants. I know cactus are a little resilient, but outside of that, we all need water to live, right? So we are one with nature. We have a lot of similarities. So I want to get into today's talk, and today's going to be, how can we learn from the spring season? I got 7 things here. I'll put them up one by one, and we'll talk about each one, and we'll get you out of here in about 30 minutes. So the first one says, new beginnings are always possible. All right, I'm going to say that one again. What we learned from the spring season is that new beginnings are always possible. No matter how dark, no matter how cold, no matter how dreary the winter may have been for you, new beginnings are always possible. It's never too late to start again. I know that sounds like a cliche, but there's so much truth to it. You can actually restart your day every single day. Every day we have the power to restart our day. If you woke up today and you just had a bad day and you were struggling and you're just not where you want to be, in this moment right now that I'm talking to you, you have the ability to restart your day. Change your focus, change your mindset, change your attitude, and see what comes out of that. So new beginnings are always possible. And if they weren't, I wouldn't be doing what I do. If I didn't believe that each one of us, including myself, had the ability to, as Jim says, restart at any time, had the ability to transform, then I would not be doing these talks. What's up, Christine? What's up, Jale? Christine's an old friend from high school. Jale is a good friend from my mom's good friend, but also considered my friend too. But everyone here is friends. So new beginnings are always possible. And remember, it doesn't matter how dark it gets. It doesn't matter how cold it gets. The winter always passes and spring always comes. So don't ever lose hope. Don't ever lose faith. Don't ever lose the willingness to continue pushing on and believing that there is no such thing as a new beginning for you. You know, every ending, literally every ending in life is the foundation and the platform for a new beginning. Now, what you choose to do with that is up to you. How you want the rest of that to go is up to you. But just always remember that there is the option, the possibility for it. So the next one we have here is healing isn't always visible at first. So, you know, the best analogy I have here that I could use for you is nature. We can't see the things that are happening in real time, ever. Literally almost ever. So remember when we were in school, there's a book that I always recommend to people. I learned everything I needed to learn in life in kindergarten. And one of the chapters, it talks about the wonder that children have in the styrofoam cup. Now, for some of you who didn't go to kindergarten or first grade out here in America, one of the things they do in the classrooms, they have this little styrofoam cup and they put a little seed in it and with some water, and it kind of grows and the little greens come out of the cup, and the kids go watch it every day, and they do stuff, or they have the little water in the evaporation. It's like they put the line of where the water's at, and each day you go and it's a little bit less, and the kids are like, how is this happening? You know, there's a wonder thing. Recovery is the same way, right? When you go into the recovery healing space, it's not visible that you're changing, that you're transforming. It's just not. You know who actually sees it first? Your friends and family and loved one are usually the ones, you know, in our book says the friends of the newcomer are those who see the transformation first. And it's like that with anyone. So there is actually change happening. You just don't see it. So let's say that I put a seed from an apple that I just ate into the ground, into the dirt, soil. And I sit back and say, I can't wait to eat this apple. I deserve this apple. And I sit there and a couple of days goes by and I'm looking at the dirt and I'm looking at my stomach and I'm looking at the dirt. I'm like, I'm starting to get hungry. Where's my damn apple? And I keep sitting and sitting and sitting and the apple doesn't come. And I might tell myself, you know what? Maybe this apple thing's not a real thing. Maybe it's all a lie. And I get up and I leave. You know, a couple of months later, this little thing, this miracle is starting to happen. You know, a tree is starting to get created. It's going to have branches on it. One of those branches is going to have an apple on it? Come on. Man, that's how healing is. You know, people come into this recovery life, whether for themselves or their loved ones, and they kind of plant themselves and they just expect the fruit to appear instantly. You know, if children do that, I get it. But when an adult does that, I kind of question, you know, their realistic view or unrealistic view that they're having of their current circumstances. You know, the perfect example is sometimes, you know, someone's loved one gets sober and then they expect everything to be resolved after. It's like, hey, that's one thing maybe, but there's a lot of issues here you got to work on. You know, we got to find out why the person was doing what they were doing. We got to find out why you were allowing the person to do what they were doing. And there's a lot of important things to consider when it comes to it. So please, just remember that the apple does not appear when the seed is planted, nor will your healing be fully manifested when you start the recovery process. Christine said, love all of this. I'm in a time of change and I needed to hear all that. You're very welcome. We're always in a time of change, Christine. Some changes are good, some changes are bad, and some changes are somewhere in between. And Jim said, growth is directly related to the constant work you're willing to put in it. Absolutely, man. I always say our growth is like, you know, working on a garden. You know, we all have a garden. How we tend to that garden, the love, the nurturing, the caring, the whatever we give to that garden is a direct result of what we can expect to reap from it. You reap what you sow, right? Sow what you reap, reap what you sow. Whichever one is the correct order. Remember, I'm a foreigner here. Sometimes I make mistakes. So the next one we have here is, oh, actually, look at that, Christine. Seasons change and so do we. I had that written before you said that. Seasons change and so do we. So whenever we're experiencing change in life, it is always important to remember, to pause and remember that the best example of change is okay are the seasons in which we are familiar with. You know, unless you live in somewhere up north in Alaska or in Antarctica or like some Scandinavian countries up there that like it gets a little bit weird with the seasons because of their relation to the sun. For the most part, you know, we're familiar with these 4 seasons, right? Spring, summer, fall, winter. Each one of them has its own characteristics. Some are good and some are bad and some are whatever. But they never last beyond the season. Not only do we hope that it's going to change, we anticipate and expect it to change. Life is the same way. We go through these moments in life and sometimes we feel like it's always going to be the same way. You know, adolescents, teenagers, they are very, very, very known for this. Like they have their first heartbreak as an adolescent. They say, I'm never going to find someone that I love anymore. I'm always going to be alone by myself. They have always the nevers and always, and they doom themselves. And the adult looks at them and smiles and says, kid, you're going to be all right. Like, what do you mean I'm going to be all right? You don't understand how it feels. But the adult knows how it feels, and they've been all right too. So sometimes we come into this world and we think that the changes we're going through are they're permanent. You know, the same way the coldness, the darkness of a winter has never lasted beyond the winter months, neither will the coldness or darkness that you're experiencing. You might think it is, but it's not. And I know some are longer than others, but if you understand the metaphor, you understand what happens here. So please remember that seasons change and so do we, and that is absolutely okay. If we stayed the same forever, then it's kind of like having one season the entire year of life. And if you have one season, it could be a good one, but you're going to miss out on every other damn thing that's needed in the other seasons. Right? It's really, really important. So spring reminds us that. Now, the next thing that we have here is small steps lead to big growth. It's the small steps of transformation that actually cause the biggest change that people eventually see and you see in the mirror, right? But the problem is we don't see the small steps happening in real time. The same way the flower that blooms, right? You don't just see it just bloom all of a sudden. It's like every day is a little bit more, a little bit different. So all of a sudden, it's like this completely transformed version. And I'm a big believer, by the way, I mean, this is a little bit sidetracked from what we're talking about, but small incremental steps in the direction of our desired goals, hopes, dreams, ambitions will eventually get us there. So the big thing that I have here is, let's say that we're in California. So I'm doing this from California. Let's say I'm in California right now, and I have a destination or a goal to end up in New York City. Now, if I get in my car and drive directly straight north, will I ever get to New York City? Well, the answer is no, because I'll get to Canada. And if I get in my car and drive directly south, will I ever get to New York City? The answer is no. I'll end up in Mexico. And if I sit in my car and don't move at all, will I ever get to New York City? No. I'll stay exactly in the same place. See, small steps lead to big growth. The important part of the small steps, you want to know what it is? That they're in the direction of the desired goal or desired destination you're trying to head to. So if you're trying to make specific changes in your life, you have to ask yourself, am I walking? Am I moving? Am I getting closer to that change? Or am I walking, going further from it? See, sometimes people say, I have a problem with my self-esteem. And if they choose to hang out with people that have high self-esteem, they have healthy confidence, they do esteemable acts, they're good members of society, they're caring, they're just good human beings, their self-esteem by association of hanging out with them is going to start to feel better about themselves. But if someone says, I want my self-esteem to improve, and they hang out with people that lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, get high, get by, with or without drugs, and their self-esteem stays small and they feel like they're being used like a doormat, will their self-esteem ever go up? The answer is no. See, what you do and what you don't do is going to impact where you end up. And that's what the small steps are important. So please don't ever underestimate the smallest step you take in the right direction, right? If it's in the right direction, you're eventually going to get there. That's a really important one for us to kind of marinate on a little bit. Let's see, big changes but God delivers those that are bound to him. Yeah, there's a lot of faith is a strong thing for people. It seems like your faith is strong and you're confident with the impact it has in your life. Nothing wrong with that. I think faith on some level is something that we all need to have, and it's a very personal journey to get there. Sometimes it takes pain. Sometimes it takes being lost. I always say this is like, if you're lost in life, good. And you might say, what the hell is this guy talking about? Why is it good if I'm lost? Well, the only things that can never be found are things that are lost. That's why we have the lost and found. So there's nothing wrong with being lost in life. It's actually a good sign that, hey, you're about to be found. You're about to find something. And you know what it is that we're trying to find? Our connection to ourself, right? That's the end of the game. You want to connect to yourself, because if you're connected to yourself, you can connect to the higher power, the universe, to others. But without disconnection to self, you're disconnected to everything. Personal opinion. Believe it if you want. And if not, it's okay. Now, this one's really good. Letting go makes room for the new. A lot of times people have a hard time letting go of things. Let's say you're holding on to an ex relationship. Someone that you were dating, someone that you were married to, someone that you were with in the past, and it just, for whatever reason, ended up bad. Whether it was harmful, abusive, toxic, whether it was just a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas, and you're holding on to that relationship. And every time you meet someone new, you're unable to truly experience that new person because of the holding on to the old relationship. So you're eventually going to have all these good people, potentially healthy ones that potentially could bring love and all that kind of stuff, pass you by, and you're still holding on to the old relationship. So letting go creates kind of a canvas for new experience. Where did we learn that? Nature. Have you noticed that the leaves in the fall start to change colors? And then after that, something remarkable happens. Well, you might just think it's whatever, but it's remarkable. The leaves start to fall from the trees. And yes, one main reason is because with the cold seasons coming and all the snow and all that kind of stuff, the less weight that the tree and the bark and the branches hold, the better chance it has to survive. If it gets really heavy and the branches fall, it's going to have some impact. But the other reason is because it makes room for the new leaves to get birthed onto those branches. The new vitality, the new oxygen, the new source of life, right? And some of you want that. Some of you want the new, but you're not willing to give up the old. If you've ever heard me talk on any level, I always say, when you're trying to transform in life, your new life is going to cost you your old life. And the question is, are you willing to pay that price? Some people are, some people aren't. The answer to that riddle, I will never know why. But if you're at a point saying, hey, I'm ready to let go because I want to make room for the new, you're on to something. You're on to something. If you had any questions, by the way, if anybody has any feedback, if there's any support you need when it comes to these kind of things, just feel free to ask. I do my best to read the comments on the side and interact with you in real time. And if it's not about any of these random metaphors about the seasons that I'm just sharing with you, feel free to ask about anything else. Remember, this channel is for anyone who firsthand, So this channel is for anyone who firsthand or secondhand has ever experienced pain as a result of substance abuse, addiction, mental illness, trauma, or grief and loss. And that's either like, you're the person that has gone through it, or sometimes even harder, you're the loved one that's watching someone else go through it. And I always say, man, that's a traumatic event. Watching someone go through addiction is very, very traumatic, because the person that's actually drinking and using is numb to whatever the hell is happening around them. They're oblivious, they're in denial, they're numb, they're in pain, all that kind of stuff, and they don't know what to do. They're typically not bad people. They're just individuals that are having a hard time coping with whatever they're going through. But the loved ones, if they don't use substances, they just have to sit with those emotions. And that's a painful experience, and that's why these support groups are really valuable for them, is because it gives them a chance to be seen and heard and supported, because they need it also. You know, the same reason why we want someone with addiction to go to a support group is the same reason why we want someone that is a family member or a loved one of addiction to go to support group, because they're both like going through this traumatic experience together. Barbara Davis. Yep, this is, but by the way, what's up? Good to see you. Barbara, this is available on YouTube. So if you go to Buckeye Recovery Network on YouTube, and then these are live every Saturday, like 9:15 Pacific Standard Time, because I know you're in a different time zone. But if you go to the live section, you'll see 4 years. Actually, oh my goodness, 5 years. We started this in COVID of 2020. Oh my God. Okay, so 5 years of videos of me sitting in various living rooms rambling like a madman to my computer screen. So I hope you find some value there and share it with whoever you want. So what did Terry say? I'm taking my recovery slow because I don't want to fail or be a failure. I'm just tired of my old addiction part of my life. I'm open-minded, and it's a want. I want to be clean. Well, hey, first of all, you've been here 3 weeks in a row, so I know you're actually committed. Nothing wrong with taking things slow. There is some wisdom in that, because sometimes the faster we go, the faster we burn out. I don't want to fail or be a failure. I want you to for sure change that terminology around. You're not a failure. You are a resilient human being. You know what would be a failure if you didn't try? A failure would be if you just gave the hell up. That's a failure. If you're here giving it your best, no matter how fast or slow you're going, you're not a failure. You're a resilient person. That I don't know you much. I always tell you this every week, Terry, that since I met you, I have a feeling you've been through a lot of stuff, and that's okay. So have a lot of us. And despite of all that, you're still here. So, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we can see how our experience can benefit others. The test of your life will one day be a really solid testimony. Your story is already inspiring to those who might be where you were back in the day and might not be clean, but they want to be clean, So keep coming back, dude. Keep coming back. Go watch my old videos. You'll find some good stuff in them too. And yes, Jim, enjoy the jam journey. What's the point of this life if we don't enjoy it, right? Jesus, yeah. And this one's good too. We are meant to bloom in our own time. Look at that one. If everything happened at the exact same time for everyone, life would be kind of weird and corny. But we are meant to bloom in our own time. And where do we learn that? We learn that in spring. Have you noticed how various flowers and various plants bloom at different times? Even various birds sing at different times. We all have our own time. It's not really our time. It's this powers to be's time. But the only thing that I always want you to ask yourself and consider is, regardless of if this is the time or not, look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I trying my best? And it doesn't have to be like 100 out of 100, like Terry just said. Sometimes slow could be our best, but am I trying my best to get to where I'm trying to get to? Because if you try your best, you're eventually going to get there. And you sleep at night saying, you know what? At least I gave it my all. But if you don't try and you want to blame and you want to just push it on other people and all that kind of stuff, I don't know, man. You're kind of self-sabotaging your ability to bloom. You're suffocating. You're kind of like plucking the flower before it has a chance to bloom. Give it a shot. See what happens. Let's see what we got here. Late bloomer here. Yeah, you know what, Jim? Late bloomers are very, very important in the recovery field, because if I'm talking about we all bloom at our own time, and you say you're a late bloomer, you give that, what I just said, you give it actually a real life, real tangible experience that, hey, it doesn't matter when you bloom. You might have 20 some odd years of sobriety like you have, but you might have not got it till you're 50. You know how many 50-year-olds out there are saying, you know what, they pissed away their whole life and they're drunk and their kidneys and all their livers, all that kind of stuff is going to go to failure by the time they're 58, not knowing that they could have changed their life significantly for the better. Let's see what Spirit in. Do you know any summer retreats for women that are the loved ones of an addict and married into a family of toxic addiction and rooted contempt and silence of the problems around. What do you suggest in self-healing and mental cleansing for loved ones with no addiction problems but codependency traits? Well, first of all, it sounds like you have a lot of insight. So I know you've been doing some exploration. So good for you. You know, it's but unfortunately, self-knowledge doesn't really avail us much. So the first and foremost place, just because you said codependency traits, there's a book, you know, Melody Beattie. You could read anything from Melody Beattie, Codependent No More, The Language of Letting Go. It's like a daily reader. Codependent No More is a good book. You can get those books. You can read them. They'll really help you. The second part that is really important is you said codependency. Well, there are 12-step meetings for codependency called CODA, and they have their entire philosophy is rooted around that, right? Like literally rooted around it. And there's so many different free resources on the website. There's online meetings. I would go there. And to be honest, once you get into like that world, I would ask those individuals who have healed from toxic patterns of codependency and all that kind of stuff, like, how did they do it? Where did they go? Because it's one thing for me saying it, but one thing when you hear from someone that has your same exact story, it's like, oh my goodness, it'll give you goosebumps when it happens. So I don't know if that was enough information for you right now. Just check out those books and check out the coda.org and go from there. And Terry, yep, 52, man. Talk to Jim. He's a wizard. You know, I call him master counselor, but he walks the walk and does the deal. And I know that for a fact. And the last one we have, I like this one. It says the light returns slowly but surely. You know, I'm not a big fan of those really, really long winter nights at like 4:30 in the afternoon. It's dark. And by 6:30 or 7, you feel like it's midnight and you want to fall asleep, but you can't. You're like embarrassed because it's only 7 o'clock at night. But you know what? Those long, dark nights, they eventually, when spring happens and spring forward and all that kind of stuff, it's like the days get longer and longer and longer. And if you really think about it, isn't that life? Some of you might be in a really dark place. You know, we got a Tiffy Sloan over here, also a late bloomer. Better late than never. Grateful to be clean today and can't wait to share this talk with my clients. You're very welcome. You know, she probably was there one day herself. It seemed so damn dark. I don't even know who she is really, but it was so damn dark. And eventually the light started to creep in slowly but surely. You know, and it sounds like not even for herself has been able to take this whole entire experience that was one day probably the darkest point of life and turn it into a career and have clients and people that she works with that are in those dark places themselves right now, right? So not only can she shed the light of her own experience, but just look at nature. You know, whenever people are really confused, I say, you know what, just go look at nature. It has every single lesson we need. But we as humans tend to overcomplicate the most simple things in life. And as the man who's pretty smarter than all of us combined said, Albert Einstein, simplicity is the highest form of human sophistication. You know, isn't that cool? And so nature is simple. We overcomplicate things. Let's go back to the simple things in life. And again, if you just came into this talk, all of these talks are available on our YouTube page. If you go to the live part, there's 5 years worth of these videos, which I'm proud of. But today's talk was new, and it was only inspired because we just had the spring season start. And when the spring season starts, it brings a lot of lessons with it. So my hope is that you are able to understand these lessons really quickly. Here were the 7 that you can go watch back. Number 1, new beginnings are always possible. Number 2, healing isn't always visible at first. Number 3, seasons change and so do we. Number 4, small steps lead to big growth. Number 5, letting go makes room for the new. Number 6, we are meant to bloom in our own time. We had some late bloomers here that demonstrated that. And aren't we always envious of the ones that like get it at the age of like 17? It's like, oh my God, this person's life's going to be so good. And the light returns slowly but surely. I will see you back here next week, same time, same place, for 30 minutes of hopefully inspiration and personal development and growth. Have a great weekend. Love and appreciate all of you. Until next time, my friends. Adios.